Welcome to season 2 and episode 3 of our podcast, Me, Myself and I. And today we have
a special guest
as part of our Inspirational Individuals podcasts and episodes. And we have the lovely, the inspiring, the courageous, brave, absolutely magnificent Sonia with us today, and she's going to share a little bit about herself and about her journey with us. I think by the end of this episode, you will see why this person is such an inspirational person, and there's so much to learn, and she has so much to give, and like this vibrant soul that just oozes this kind of contagious positivity, isn't it, Mahi? What would you say?
She's like a kaleidoscope of colours that brings joy
Oh,
everywhere she goes.
Oh, fair. See, that's a lovely way to say. So I think we wouldn't do you justice to introduce you. So do you want to say
a bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
Well, I'm on top of that introduction. Anyhow, that's so lovely. That's so touching. I'm Sonia, and it's my journey of divorce. Your words really, really have touched me. It's really, really sweet to hear that, because I think sometimes when you're in it, you don't always see it. And yeah, I went through a difficult journey of divorce, and now I do divorce coaching and mentoring. And I'll leave it to you. What do you want to know?
Can you please share a bit about your experience
of divorce? It was really difficult, and it wasn't actually the divorce itself that was a separate issue in itself, but it was actually the family and the culture, which I think made my divorce journey even harder than divorce already is. Now, divorce is difficult no matter what, and I think as anyone that says, "Oh, divorce is really easy," there's always emotional intensity that goes along with divorce. But I think my emotional trauma is more from my family, that they didn't support me initially for like 8 years. They weren't on board with the divorce. So my experience of divorce hasn't been the best. I don't think anybody has been. It's been quite emotionally traumatic. But I have come out the other side a better and stronger person. So in a way, it's done me a favor, if you can even say that. But I did. Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear what you said about your divorce and culture. Yeah. And what you've just said, that actually the more traumatic thing was your cultural experience of the people that are around you.
Yeah.
And if you was to sort of separate those two things, can you tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about your divorce, and then about how the like just separating those two things out, the divorce and the culture, because I think it's really important for people to understand those two things separately. And I think, just from knowing you and seeing you speak and hearing you present that so eloquently, because I think people don't understand. It's like you go through this like multiple trauma. So would you mind just expanding?
For me, my biggest battle, as I said, was my mum and dad. And I'd say my mum and dad, but predominantly my mum. She was very much of the old school mindset. You should stay together no matter what. It doesn't matter what's going on at home. She would be like, "You're ruining my life by getting a divorce." It was very Bollywood drama in the house. I mean, I say that, and I'm not going to go into the full ins and outs of it, but it was very much Bollywood. So I wasn't having a great time at home anyway. I'm trying to and I use the word extricate myself from this situation because there is no other word for it. And I needed an exit plan. And I'd go to their house and I'd say, "This is going on." And I'd get an earful from them or mum. And I'd be like, "Okay, where do I go now?" So I literally had no safe haven. My only quiet place was my car. So I'd come home and the kids and my ex-husband would be here. So there was always drama going on here. And then go there and there was drama there. So I think I found that really hard. There was no safe haven. There was nowhere I could go and be at peace. I was always looking over my shoulder. So culturally, that was really hard. I never really worried about what society and what other people would say. I never had an issue with that. I think as a person, I'm quite strong and bold in the fact that, well, they're going to have something to say no matter what. Like, they're going to have, if I've got brown hair, because she's got brown hair. If I've got pink hair, she's going to have pink hair. If she's married, oh my God, or she hasn't got children, why is she married with no kids? If you're not married, someone's got to say. So someone's always got something to say. So I wasn't worried about the stigma that people say, "Oh my God, look at her, she's divorced." It was more getting my family on board. And I'm first and maybe the only divorcee in the family. There's nobody else. So I think for my family, that was the hardest thing. Like, my dad was really close to his family in India, but he didn't even tell them what was going on. And then when I went to India and I told them, they were shocked. They were like, Johnson, you never told us. And I was like, what? And I was horrified that he speaks to my cousins. He used to speak to my cousins every day. I said, are you serious that you don't know what's going on back here? They had no idea. So my family were really much, let's not tell anybody about this. Let's keep it in the four walls. Let's see if we can resolve this. Let's try and make them stay together. And when I say make them stay together, I'll give you an example. I was working for my mum and dad, and I said, like, I can't do this. I need out. You're not going to help me. Giving up. I'm leaving the family business, and I'm going to go and do it myself. I'm going to find a way. And literally, they said to me, well, if you leave the family business, or you want a divorce, we're going to close the family business. So I had a noose around my neck from my family. There was literally no way out. I was in this box. I worked for them. They were there 24/7, and they didn't want me to have this divorce. So they would try and stop me. Every time I tried to go 2 steps forward, they throw a spanner in the works. And that was really hard. I think I found that really hard.
I can relate to that, Sonia.
Yeah.
Because although my parents have supported me, I think in the beginning, my family were the hardest ones to convince. The funniest thing is, like, I fought with my family to marry my ex-husband, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't want me to marry him. And you know what? They were right. Do you know what I mean? You always trust your parents, right? But they were, you know, in the end, they were right. And I think karma came and, faced me really hard.
So funny. See, mine was introduced from my family.
Yeah.
So I never had that from my mum, but I did have, you should have done this, you should have done this better. Or, there was always an excuse. And if my ex said something to me, she would say, and I'll say in Hindi, "Bura to tha kara to nahi." Like, he didn't actually do what he was going to say. So I'm like, that doesn't make it right.
No.
That doesn't make what he's saying to me right. And that was my battle. And another example I'll give you, we had a function in the temple, and me and the kids were there, and my ex, we were still together in inverted commas. And my mum was still very much in his corner, and he hadn't come to the temple. And I don't think I've even told her this, but I remember it vividly. She kept looking back at the mandir door. When's he coming? When's he coming? When's he coming? Your children, like your daughter and your grandchildren are there. We should bring that smile to your face. But when he walked through that door, the smile on her face, I've never seen her smile so happily. And it's like, that really hurt me.
It does.
Because I can talk about it now and I can laugh about it now. But that really hurt me because you've got your grandchildren and your daughter sitting there. We've come, we are here. All you care about is him walking through that door. And that was probably to keep safe face. Because she's very known in the temple. And it was things like that that really hurt me. The emotional intensity of that was just horrible. There's no other way to put it.
And I don't know about you, Sonia, but in my situation, I felt emotional intensity from both sides, not just my family, but his family as well. Like, I was always made to feel like I was the wrong person. I was in the wrong by everybody. There's something wrong with you. Do you know what I mean? There's something wrong with her. She's the problem, And I think that finger pointing and that sort of feeling, it just knocked my confidence. And I think even till today, I'm still trying to build it up. I mean, I don't know how you feel about all of that.
So I've never really taken on board what my ex-in-laws have said. Firstly, because they weren't here. And so they're mainly in India. And when they were here, I mean, I did get, all women put up with this, this is just the norm and all that. But to be honest, what they said to me didn't actually upset me as much because I was so upset with my own family. I have to worry about what they thought, if I'm really honest. My own mum and dad weren't in my corner. How am I going to expect some next person to be in my corner, right? Yeah. Obviously, that's their son, and they're not going to go against us. And like, my family were going against me. Like, I'd come home from work, and the three of them would be sitting. I'm saying that you can see my room, but in this part of my room, in the lounge, and I'd come home, and then all three of them sit there ready to lecture me. And that is why, because he was at work with them every day. My ex-in-laws, what they said and what they thought, obviously, I never wanted to hurt anybody. And I knew by me wanting this divorce, I was hurting all of them. But by staying, I would have hurt myself even more.
Yes.
And my children. And this is what it takes so much for people to realise. So when my mum would say to me, "You're ruining my life," this isn't about you. As much as I love you, Mum, this isn't about you. And she couldn't see the wood for the trees because that's just the way she's been brought up culturally. And as I said, I've moved on and we talk and it's fine now. And ultimately they did come around and they did support me like massively in the end. That 8-year journey of getting them in my corner was really hard. And that is where I feel like, so my whole thing was like 12 years long nearly. So I felt like I lost a decade battling with my parents. And I didn't want to, I was in my 30s when I started my journey. I was like 40 something by the time I got out. I'm like, if they'd listened to me in my 30s, I'd have been a lot younger. But I've come out the other side, and that's the main thing.
I think often the cultural factors, all these things, they play such a big part, don't they? You know, we stay somewhere longer than we need to because of those things.
Yeah. Everyone said to me, why don't you just go? Why don't you just leave? I wanted my mum and dad to understand. And actually, I was in a position to do that because I'd given up my job. So I was also rebuilding my career to extricate myself. But I wanted mum to say, you know what, Beta, it's okay, we understand.
Yeah, yeah.
And as much as my dad came round before he passed away, my mum is okay. I still think if somebody actually said to her, are you happy with the choices Sonia made or has made? She'd still say no. Even though she knows I'm happier as a person, I think in heart, deep down inside, she probably said, I wish we didn't have to go through that. And she just stayed there. And that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
Yeah. It's really weird because you can't change their mindset. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, there is nothing that you can do to change their mindset because it's so ingrained, that thought, that those, you know, it's generational, isn't it? Those views around things are generational.
I know, but that's the hard bit because you're a mum, I'm a mum.
Yeah.
But if your child is so deeply unhappy, that should not come into it. What culture or society think it should be, my daughter is unhappy, I need to get her out. And that for me is the bottom line. I think for us in this generation, that's how we are going to be parenting our children differently or, you know, helping our children differently. But what I struggled with the most in my family, I was so deeply unhappy. And she was like, just stay. And I mean, it's really hard for me to portray that now because I'm not deeply unhappy. And you see this crazy, bubbly girl in front of you. But I was low as low can be, you know, beyond words, and so much stuff happened. And that is what I struggle with, that you can see that. And I think culturally, that is where we need to try and help the older generation understand that, you know, divorce isn't that bad.
And I think maybe Mahi, you can see this a little bit more because obviously you see how my mum parents me,
it's
and
very
then how
different.
I parent you.
It's very different.
Is it very different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you just see the switch between the two mums. Like how you parent me, my sister, and then you see how Bibby parents grandma as well.
Yeah. So we've got my great nan. We got my nan. And you know, just how different those generations are. Like I saw my nan last week, I think it was, and she's like, "Tu ser ni kya? Tu iddi bara."
Yeah.
She goes,
no, I get it.
It's like, where's my chutney, right? And I'm like, and then she's like started on my top. She goes, "Oh, why are you wearing a top with like no sleeves? Like, where's your sleeves, right?" And then I thought, oh, maybe my mum's okay. But like, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like that kind of generational thinking, it is really damning. Like I said, my grandma, you know, maybe you can describe this a little bit better than I can. You know, how would you describe how she is compared to myself? Because
she's much more harsher than mum. She says what she wants you to do.
She tells me to do what she wants me to do rather than ask me.
Yeah.
I
think it's very much you do as I say, and that's the same with my mum. My mum was like, do this fast, go do this, do that. And I'm like, but I don't want to. My sister is very law abiding in the household, you know, follows the rule book, so she does everything by the book. So me and my sister completely different relationship with my mum.
Yeah,
it's very different because I didn't follow the rule book, I didn't obey, I didn't conform. I think that's the difference between that generation and our generation. They expect us to conform. We don't.
And I think like conformity doesn't exist anymore, Sonia. I don't know if you feel that way, but I just don't feel like it. I think the way that people think nowadays, the way that people are, you know, we're not living in a society now whereby you get married to one person and that's it. Your whole life is with that person. I just don't feel that society is in that way anymore.
But my mum, like, if I ever mentioned anything about a guy near me, or she'd freak out right now. Like, this is a few years ago, I went to my first Asian single parent event or something. She's like, were there guys there too? And I said, yeah. She went, yeah. She went, and I went, it's okay, mum. I was sitting on a separate table. I'm like, what did you like? Like, so worried. I'm going to meet somebody else. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, cross that bridge and tackle that problem when I get there. So,
You're right,
yeah,
though,
haven't
isn't
tackled
it?
that problem.
It's
Yeah.
funny how that's, for me, it's become a taboo subject. Like dating someone or finding a partner, it's like I feel like I'm like a teenager again, you know, like you can't talk about
Same,
it,
yeah.
can you?
No, my mum is going to freak if I ever, which I will do at some point, start, meet somebody else. But she's made it very clear, like she's not interested. She's not, she won't entertain that. Okay, we'll see.
Well,
I'll cross that bridge when I have to.
and I think I will.
It's not really her problem. It's fine.
It's another thing though, isn't it? It's another thing that you have to like. Do you think it's funny? It's
Cool.
funny, really
What are
funny.
you gonna do when you introduce your man to
Introduce
grandma?
my man.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I've got to find one first, Mahi.
Yeah,
like
when
Sonia
you do-
said, I'm not thinking about it till I get to that place.
When you do, what are you gonna do
So should we ask Sonia? What are you going to do, Sonia?
when you find a man?
When I meet someone, tell my mum. I'm just going to tell her. Just rip that plaster off. Hold back. There's no point. Look, first is done. I'm divorced, right? Can't do anymore. So, I mean, I'll just tell her. And the thing is, my sister and brother-in-law, and everyone, even my children are okay with me meeting somebody else. So, who is my mum then to say, well, don't do that?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And I think there is something about us as individuals letting go of that tie with our mums.
Oh yeah, I would
Isn't
tell
it?
my mum. I would just, it's been a few years. She'll have to get over the impact of the divorce at some point,
And that is one of the yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about the impact of the divorce and going through a divorce, can I ask,
What were the biggest challenges you faced when you first became a single parent?
So I think I was a single parent a lot longer before then actually I got divorced.
okay.
So that's just a bit of paper, right? But as a single parent, I think I was doing it for quite a significant time before. What was my biggest challenge? Yeah, no. I think it's just working full time and managing the children and all their activities and all that kind of stuff. I think that is the thing I probably had to just organise myself around. If we're talking about practically. Emotionally, the biggest challenge is when the kids once we'd separated and divorced and he moved out, would be having when the children would go and stay with him.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh, so a few years ago, this is before I got divorced, and we were still living under the same roof. So we had separate lives. So as I said, in theory, a single parent a lot longer, a lot before the actual paperwork came through. And he had taken them away on holiday. And it was like near Christmas. And I remember bawling my eyes out, being really upset, missing them like crazy, like a wreck, an emotional wreck.
Mm-hmm.
He took them away, I think, a couple of Christmases ago, even like this Christmas just gone. Can't remember when. And I was like, yes, that's crazy, going out. So I've evolved so much as a person as well. Built a whole new network of friends. I've made friends who are also single parents. And so a couple of Christmases ago, not the one I was talking about when I was like an emotional wreck, but in the middle, the kids were away and we all got together and none of us had our children.
Yeah.
So they were either at their other parents or whatever. So we all got together. And actually, there was an unsaid emotional understanding of what the other person was going through. We didn't say anything. We all knew how we felt because none of our children were with us on Christmas Day. But we'd all got together as a group. So I've managed to change those emotional challenges and work on myself and find a network of people that if I'm feeling low or I need some support, I want someone to talk to, now I choose when to go out. Before I was like, oh my God, I need to go out. Now I'm like, I could actually just stay home. I need to go out this Friday. Because I'm in a better headspace.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I also remember, like, when the kids sort of first, you know, well, their dad's not been that great, to be fair, but when they did go to see him, like, it would be like, I want to organize something, I want to go out, or I want to do something because I don't have any children, right?
Yeah,
Whereas where I am now, I'm quite happy to sit on my sofa and watch Netflix.
absolutely.
Do you know what I
I
mean?
really, yeah,
Yeah, go on.
I didn't enjoy my own company before.
Yeah.
I now am very happy in my own space, in my own time. Like, the kids have been away, or they go and stay at my mum sometimes as well. And I'm like, what you can do by yourself? I said, enjoy my house.
Yes.
Like, just be happy in a t-shirt. I don't know, whatever. You know,
Walk around my house naked, who cares?
yeah,
Like,
well, I think it's still a t-shirt, but yeah. But it's just I see the difference in me, what I was 5 years ago to what I am now. But Marty, going back to your question, I think I found the emotional instability of being alone by myself the hardest challenge. That I found hard. Because my children are my rock, like yours are, right? They keep you sane, mine definitely keep me grounded. Like, he's very sensible, my older one, and so is my younger one. But when they weren't there, it was just not having that security blanket. If that makes sense? So I
yeah,
found that was my biggest challenge.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, like, you evolve as a person, don't you? And the challenges change with time as well, don't they? They probably don't stay constant either.
No, the challenge, but I think the challenges then, I mean, if you said what are my challenges now,
None.
I'd be like, I'm all right.
Because you've
My
done all
kids
the
are
work
a
on
lot older.
it's
Huh?
because you've done all the work on yourself, Sonia. That's
I've
why.
done all, and also I've just come out, I've embraced it. I've embraced being a single parent, I've embraced divorce. I've never ever said, and this is something that it's quite key, why me?
Yeah.
I've never said, why did I get divorced? Why did my marriage not work out? I've never gone to that place because there's no point
Yeah.
for me. And I'm a very emotional and sensitive person. Nobody would ever think that. But I used to cry all the time. But I never did that. Why me? Never.
Yeah.
And as a child, and I remember my friends, that when I was really sick and I had COVID, I was in hospital. And my friend came to see me, but we didn't know it was COVID at the time. So everyone was
Yeah.
visiting me. This is like before it was even a thing. When I was going through the court case at the time, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're really sick because you've got all this stress and pressure and all that kind of stuff." And she said, out of all my friends, everyone was really super ambitious. Out of all of them, you were the one friend that just wanted to get married, settle down, and have those 2 kids. And that was it. Very simple, romanticized life I wanted.
Mhm.
And it's the one thing that I didn't get. But I've learned to live with that. I've
Yeah.
learned to accept it.
Yeah. I totally hear what you're saying. And I think I've had to, from my own experience, I've had to reevaluate what I wanted and change that to accommodate my situation. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I want less. I just want something different now.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to say that I don't want a relationship.
Yeah.
God help my mom when she ever hears this. But, absolutely. And I'm open to the idea of meeting somebody else. But I've just had to change like that. Okay, it's not here right now, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I've got 2 boys. I need to do what's right for them. And I say I need to do what's right for them. This situation that me and my ex-husband were living in wasn't, I was deeply unhappy. The kids were subjected to all kinds of arguments. And I'm sure it wasn't great for my ex-husband. I've never asked him the question. I don't need to. I've never said to him, like, I'm sure it was crap for him too. It
Yeah.
wasn't great. It wasn't an ideal environment. So it's done all 4 of us a favour.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people would argue that. But I say it was the right thing for all of us.
And I don't know, Mahi, as a child, what you want to say kind of on that point, really.
As a child,
Yeah, just from a child's perspective. Like, I think you've mentioned this before, haven't you, about, is it better to stay together or?
no, always leave. No, you don't have to leave, but like kick them out of the house or whatever. But, always step out of the situation,
That's it.
because
Yeah.
if you stay in the situation and you have kids, it's worse for their mental health and it's worse for your mental health as well.
Coming from a
Absolutely. I
child.
say, yeah. My kids say it too. They're like, there's no more arguments. We're much better.
Mm.
And I say very openly, I wasn't the best version of me when I was going through that. So I wasn't the best mum.
Yeah.
It's so like, how can I be the best mum to my kids when my head was engrossed in extricating myself from the situation, working my arse off to find a way to get out, and then legal crap. And my mum just being very unsupportive at the time. So there is no way I could give my children what they should have had. And I say that very openly. I'm not happy it was like that, but I actually physically had no space to give them what they needed. My
And
head was not there.
how do you talk to your children about these conversations?
Oh, we're really open enough out. The three of us talk all the time about. I mean, I've also said to like my children about talking about it, like my 19-year-old and my 13-year-old. Shay will talk a little bit more about it. Mikkel, who's my 19-year-old, he said very openly, I said, like, do you want to do a podcast or do you want to talk about it? Or, will you talk to me?
Yeah.
And he's like, I've lived it once, I don't need to relive it. And that's it. And that's his matter. It's closed subject. That is it. There's no movement from that. And I told him the whole time, he won't talk about it. He's just done with it.
Yeah.
But he knows that it was the right thing for us. He's the one who actually kept me quite grounded through it because he's much more level-headed than I am. Much more level-headed. Emotional intensity person, right? So an example was we came home once, we weren't living here, and I came to look for the title deeds of the house. I just needed some paperwork and they weren't there. So me being me, I'm having like a massive, oh my God, the paperwork's gone. Your dad's taken it. And Mikhail was just like, Mum, he's taken the paperwork. He hasn't taken the house. What are you having a fit for? Like, okay. And he was like 13 or 14 at the time. And I was like, oh, he's too sensible for me.
I know. And sometimes their reasoning, just, do you know what I mean? It's so important because it just brings you back to reality. I think, I often used to get myself so wound up. And you don't know how to unwind yourself, do you, around some of these things?
No.
You're just winding and winding and winding, and you think, oh my God, how do I stop?
And it's hard because you have this expectation, which I don't know what to do, from your ex-partner to do the right thing.
Yes.
And then they don't do the right thing, and then it all goes wrong. And then you're like in a mess, and you're like, and he'd be like, he would say to me, why do you have this expectation? Why do you expect him to do the right thing? I'd be like, okay, yes, I know, but there is always still that he might do the right thing.
Yeah, I know. He might do the right thing.
He might do the right thing. I mean, this is a long time ago, and we talk, we communicate for the sake of the children and stuff like that, and they see their dad when they want to see them, when they want to see them. There's no like, it's up to them. I've left it very fluid.
Yeah, I think, it's important to have those open conversations with your children, because I think often we get told not to say anything to them, protect them and all this sort of stuff. But in protecting them, sometimes we can harm them more because we're just not telling them what's going on.
Yeah, so my children, because it was so long and we were in the same house for so long together, there was no hiding it. There was no hiding what was going on. I think Shay has known nothing different but the fact that mum and dad don't get on. Mikhail may have seen a little bit different. But talking about damaging children, I want to tell you a story, which I don't think I've ever told anybody, but I've just remembered it. It's one year at my mum's house was somebody's birthday? It might have even been Mikhail's birthday. Somebody's birthday, we were around there. And I think it was Mikhail's. And she said to Mikhail, I said, oh, Mikhail, make a wish like you do. And she said, and this is what I mean by educating the old generation, wish for your parents to stay together. I lost it. I lost it. I was like, how can you put that on a 6-7-year-old? Like, why are you saying that to him? Like, that's just the worst thing. I was like livid beyond words. But it is that expectation. And I was just like, Mum, I'm going. I can't do this. We're just going to go. We got left. I was like, you can't say that to him. But that's more damaging. Yeah. That's huge. Like, I'm very lucky and very blessed that my children have come out of this okay. Because there was so much toxicity, I can't even say the word, but generally in my house, and we go to my mum's house, and my mum's house wasn't intentional, but she would just be that old school, just wish that your parents stay together. You can't say that to him. You just can't say that. But yeah.
I know. It's
Mm.
sometimes it just makes you think that, why do you not think before you speak?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think
people think that about me as well.
do they? What, you don't think?
Yeah.
Would you say something
You're
like
still young. You're okay.
No, I wouldn't say something like that.
But
No,
for
exactly.
an older person to say something like that.
For an older person, I wouldn't say something like that, but I do think people think that I don't think before I speak.
Yes,
I don't
she's
think
looking
that.
at me. She's looking at me. I'm the people that think that, aren't I? But yeah. I think people that are meant to be wiser, they're meant to be our kind of, do you know what I mean? They're guides. And if they're saying things like that, then where do you go?
Yeah.
And on that note, what and who was your support system in that space?
I had, my work was my savior. Like, I threw myself into work. I started a new job like in 2015 while I was going through this. So that was somewhere I really threw myself into, and my actual work family were really supportive. So I'm always grateful for them for that. Had friends, they understood, but none of them were divorced, so that was really hard. One of my friends that was divorced, she was just like, I can't understand your mum. I can't understand your mum. Not helpful. That's because I really, you know, and I had counselling all the way through for all those years, from 2015 to 2021, that whole time. I needed a divorce. And it was just people telling me, you're gonna come out of this, okay? You will get, because when I started the journey, 2012 actually, I just wanted to know I was gonna get out. I just never thought I was gonna get out. So that was hard, but I did have support around me from external people.
Yeah.
I didn't know about any of the networks. I didn't know. I was cocooned in this little shell, and I didn't even know about networking. I literally went to work, did my job, came home, and I was surviving. I wasn't living. It was just survival. That was it. I just knew I need to survive, I need to get out. Yeah, and that was it. And I had external people help me. That was my support network.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? How, and I always say this now, like looking back, right? In the end, most people don't really care about your problems. And I don't mean that in a horrible way, but your friends might be there, but they'll only listen for a certain amount of time. Or do you know what I mean? People only listen for a certain amount of time. And I always say, you know what, have a good therapist and have a good coach. If you've got those things there, then you're going to be okay, because those people, it's part of what they do to help you.
Yeah. But the other thing is, my friends were really good, and they were like, they would listen, and I would cry and all that. But at the end of the day, they can't actually get me out.
No.
They can't actually do anything. They're people who are going to listen, absorb, may give some advice if they can, but actually their hands are tied as well. They're helpless. There's also, my friends were really supportive, but that was it. They were supportive, but what can they do? Like, I now do divorce mentoring and coaching, and I can support, I can guide people in the next steps, I can coach them to a place where they feel empowered to make that next step. You do it for them.
Yeah.
I can't actually do it. So I had a session yesterday, and by the end of it, she's like, I know where I'm going. I know this is what I want to do. The biggest question I get asked is, should I or shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Or, is it the right thing? And obviously, I can't tell them if it's the right thing. I can just say, this is the pros, these are the cons, this is where you're at, this is where you might be at. Think of what it is like life as a single parent. And I'm very honest, life as a single parent isn't easy.
No.
But I'm happier. And there are things I've had to sacrifice being a single parent, but I am happier. And so I'm happy to give up what I've had to give up, also like financially. But I'm a happier person, and that's what's more important, my mental health.
I guess as a single parent myself, single parenting is hard. It's really hard. The different facets of what happens when you become a single parent, actually, I think you can only understand till you get into that situation. Do you know what I mean? And how that feels. And I think, you know, it's not an easy decision to make, but it is the right decision. If you're in the wrong situation, it's absolutely the right decision to take. Actually, you know what? I need to step away from this for the well-being of myself and my children. You know, it's absolutely the right decision to take. And going back to the point that you were making about friends and families, I almost felt that I was taking my negativity to them. Do you know what I mean? Like all these negative
Yeah.
emotions and all that negativity and all that feeling, that angst, and I felt like I was taking it to these people, and do you know what I mean? And I think that's why I think therapy, coaching, those things were really good for me, because it allowed me to explore what was going on for me in a place where that's what that whole focus was around, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, when I started my divorce journey, this whole thing about negativity and all that, didn't even know what it was. I was just told you I lived a very cocoon life, like very. I'm really not the person I am now. Back then, like I was very different. I never even thought of that. I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest. I
And
never
to be
even
honest
thought of
with you,
that.
Sonia, I just thought of it now as well.
Yeah,
Because
I never thought of it.
I think at the time I thought like I was taking my trouble to them. I wouldn't have described it as negativity.
Yeah, but I didn't even do that.
But right now, while we're talking,
Did you
I've
feel
just
guilty?
sorry,
Did you feel guilty?
I did feel very guilty. Yeah, I did feel guilty taking my. I felt like I was the person with all the problems. Here she comes again with all the problems.
I think because with me, all my friends used to come to me with their problems
Yeah.
as well. I never thought of it like that. I'm kind of the peacemaker. I'm the problem solver. I don't know
That's
how
why
that
you're
happens,
that's
but
why you're a divorce mentor and coach, Sonia.
yeah.
That is
I give
precisely what you're doing.
apparently I've been told I give really good advice.
Yeah. See that's why you're in the role that you're in,
Yeah.
aren't
I
you?
give really good advice. Even before I did this and all of that. Generally I give really good, I've just had this knack of giving really good advice, and that's why I
Hmm.
do what I do.
So, like on that note, something that I find like really important is self-care. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you find like time for self-care and like personal like growth in?
So I managed to devise a routine with me and my ex-husband, even while we were living together, that I had the boys 4 nights a week, he had the 3 nights a week. So I had 3 nights to myself, which I made a point of doing things, whether it was my friends or mainly with my friends. And if not, I would just take myself up to my room and just, chill. So I used that time. And that's why when actually my divorce came through, I'd already rebuilt my life, because I started that process a lot before. I think it was just taking that's because I had those 3 nights a week. I had those 3 days, nights of the evening. I would, take time out. And if you talk about self-care, and, I then started going to get my hair done and my nails done and all that kind of stuff as well as self-care. I drag the kids with me. They just have to sit there with me. They're part of my beauty regime. It's fine. They know them very well. They're like, they're too old. They don't need to come with me. But before, I just take them with me.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
What can you
But
do?
I did start looking after myself a little bit more. I started colouring my hair, and I started reading a little bit more as well. I took that time out to read, self-discovery. Um, it's just a gradual process over the years. If you say to me, when did it start and when did it stop? I don't know when it started, but it's never going to stop because it's ongoing.
Yeah. And I think it's like something shifts and you can't describe it, but something shifts for you as a person, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
you sort of like yourself, I started taking care of myself, getting my hair done, having my nails done, all those things that I just wasn't doing for myself.
Yeah.
So I can, and it's not like a switch that it's come on suddenly. It's a shift, isn't it? Rather than a
I think for me, the trigger was also going back to work full time, leaving the family business, not
Mhm.
going back to work, but going back to work part time initially. So then that gave me a focus, and that is when the self growth started. Is just having that focus on work. Like I literally threw myself into work, and that's, I think it was around then was walking away from the family business, even though my family were completely against me doing that.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say are the pivotal points of your self-growth? The things that you've done that you think are the things that have impacted you the most in your self-growth journey? That's an interesting
My
question.
divorce party.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, I think that has to be it. And then launching the divorce and mentoring coaching.
Okay.
That, and before, if I go back, it was actually that decision to leave.
Mm.
It was that decision. I'm done. I'm going to leave no matter how I do it. That journey, that 10, 11, 12, whatever journey, however long it was, because I lose track now, that was just ongoing. And then I think the actual liberation and that party, that changed my life.
So what made you decide to have a divorce party?
So I didn't actually say I'm going to have a divorce. It wasn't actually
Hey,
a
I'm gonna have a
I'm gonna
divorce party.
So I decided to have a party, right? So
Right.
we just come out of COVID, and I'd got my divorce came through in March. My birthday's in July, so I thought I'm gonna have a party. We just come out of COVID, and I managed to keep the house. And it's been like 12 years. People didn't come over. Why would they come over? Like, I didn't want to be in this toxic environment. Why would my friends want to come here, right? So it'd been years and years and years. No one actually been over. So I thought, let's have a summer party. So for my birthday. But then the numbers, like in July, were still like 30, 40 people. I was like, I can't do a party with 30, 40 people. And so we were like, oh, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. And then I think August, the restrictions changed. And I was literally sitting in my back room, and I said, I picked the date, and I messaged on my WhatsApp to my core girls, are you free on this date? And it was a Sunday. They were like, yeah. I said, okay, save the date. And then it just snowballed from there. So then I sent out this invite, which I don't know if you guys seen, but it's got a horse on one side, which says divorcees, and then on the other side is a unicorn, it says Sonia. And it was basically, I'm not talking about, there's other, like, divorcees are like, oh my God, my life is over. And there's me, like, partying it up. So that was my party invite. But I never called it a divorce party until my friend turned up with a divorce sash. So I put that on, and then had a bouncy castle, a unicorn bounce. And my thing was unicorn. So it was all about magical mystery, magical stuff. It was about being free and bright colours. My cake was a unicorn cake, so there was nothing divorce written on there. My invite obviously had a little bit, but it didn't say divorce party. And then I had a plaque that said, which I've got up in my room, I love the person I've become because I fought to become one.
Mm.
And it was just about, so my friend put it very well to me, not many people celebrate themselves, you celebrated you.
Yeah.
So it was really a celebration of me, and my new life and my new beginning with my children. And so I invited my friends and their friends and, the mums and dads or whatever. It was a whole mixture of people. There was no like just adults only. It was like from how old Shay was, like 10 or 9 or 10, to like, older people. But I just wanted to celebrate my new life. And that was it.
And what year was that in then? Sonia?
September 21.
September 21. Yeah.
How did your family react when you had the divorce party?
Afterwards, your mum.
So it was near COVID, right? Or just after COVID. So I told them I'm having this party. They're like, oh, no, we're not going to come because of COVID. Like, okay, fine. So I'd written a speech and everything about me and my new life. I'm out there partying. My party was in my back garden. I'm out there partying, and this family friend of ours came, Sonia, can you come inside? Yeah, I'm coming in. And like, well, I was busy partying, so I was like, yeah, I'll come in a minute. And then like, eventually she said, Sonia, can you come in? So I came in, and then my parents were sitting in my lounge, and I was wearing this divorce only sash, and my mum's face just dropped. She's like, I thought you were celebrating your birthday. In July, this is September. Everybody with a birthday party. I said it was a party. I've never said anything about birthday. And she's like, oh, like. Anyway, so then they got over their shock. They came out, they cut the cake with me, and I did a little speech, and I was talking in my speech, and I said, I remember saying, I know this isn't the life you chose for me, and referring to my family, my mum and dad. my friend piped up because she's divorced and she gets it. She went, "It's your life, Sonia." I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. But yeah, so their reaction was, well, see, that was okay because it was just tamed in the back garden. When it hit the papers, was just a whole other reaction. They hit the roof. They hit the roof. They were like, "You're divorced," and the whole world knows you're divorced. And I was like, "How did it?" Like, I didn't actually care. And I never thought it would go viral. I just did it in my back garden. There was no like media or anything there. And obviously, then the reporter did pick it up. And then I was like, okay, then it was in the Mirror. I never thought it would go like global, which was my mum and dad. And the trigger was when people messaging me from India going, "Boy, you're trending on social media. You're like on a pop-up notification. Indian woman throws divorce party." And then my mum and dad like, "What is it?" And I was like, "Oh." But yeah, I think they got over it eventually.
Well, like your friend said, it's your life at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know, but you know, you can be known for lots of things in the world, but being known to throw a divorce party, it definitely wasn't what my mum wanted. Not impressed.
So on a really personal level, like, you
Yeah.
know, what did that event signify for you, do you think? You know?
It was, for me, it was thanking everybody that supported me. I mean, the endless tears like of that decade. I mean, even if it's a couple of years, they listened to me cry for like 10 years. Like, that's not a small amount of 12 years, not a small amount of time that they'd had my back. Like, at least they didn't, none of my friends deserted me. Do you know, they were still all there. It was literally, you know how people do have a reception when they get married? That significance of a new start. For me, this was my significance of a new start.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just pure liberation. I think that was freedom. That those shackles have gone. I'm free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. Besides the parents, but clearly me and the kids could. I don't think I've ever been so happy in such a long time. It was literally the most craziest evening of my life. I want to do it again, but I could never repeat that because those emotions are so gone.
Yeah.
But it was just that pure freedom of, I think, happiness. I think I felt like I was when I was like 16 again, just with kids in tow.
I'm just, you know, I don't know how to say, I'm a bit speechless, Sonia, if I'm honest, because
Oh,
it just sounds like such a heartfelt experience. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
almost like when you're describing it, you kind of feel like you're there with you. Do you know what I mean? And, you know,
I don't know. I don't even know how it came. I know obviously the idea of the party came about. It's been life changing for me. And I think it was just nice, I think, for everybody to see the old Sonia back. So, because I've got friends that were there since I was like 10, since I was 13, 14, like since my teenage years. I've still, you know, I've got friends from back in those days.
yeah,
Because I'm old now. But it was nice for them to see the old me. Like one of my friends that gave a speech on that day was somebody I've known since I was 16. And her children are my godchildren. And it was just, she was just like, what happened to you shouldn't have happened to you. It has happened to you, but you've not let it break you. And I think that's it.
yeah. You've come out stronger, actually, probably.
I'm stronger than I was before. I mean, before I was an emotional wreck. I couldn't even go for dinner without crying. But like crying and driving was my norm.
I know.
My habit of my, yeah, I'd cry and drive. I remember once being at work and I was leaving work and they're like, "You can't leave like this, you're crying." I was like, "Oh, I'm used to it. I do it all the time. It's just my norm." It was my norm.
Yeah.
Sadly. And I remember once speaking to a friend and I think I was telling about somebody else and they had some problems. And he was like, "You can't worry about somebody else's problems. You've got enough of your own."
Yeah.
And I was like, "But this is my norm. Like, this is my everyday." And he's like, "You need to smile though." And I was like, I don't know how to do that anymore. I don't even know what that is. My norm was just existing. Whereas now I feel like I'm living. There's such a difference in the two.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, you've sort of hit the nail on the head there, isn't it? You're just in this existence, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I think earlier you called it survival, didn't you? Just
Yeah.
surviving. But now, actually, Sonia is living.
Yeah.
What?
I have another question. What
Go.
advice would you give to like other single parents that are going through the same situation as you? Well, not the same, but
I think it all depends on where they are in their journey. But my one thing is don't give up. Perseverance and persistence. Because I could have given up at any given point. I mean, I didn't have anybody in my corner. My mum and dad, like they'd emotionally and financially blackmailed me all the time. Oh, if you get divorced, you won't get this. If you get divorced, you won't have the nice holidays. If you get, that kind of stuff. But I realized my mental health and my happiness was more important than the monetary value. Build a strong network of people around you. Get help. Get support. I think the most important thing is don't question yourself. Own your journey. Own your story. Because when you go and question yourself, should I do this? Did I do the right thing? Then you're putting doubts in your own head. But if you've made that decision, and you obviously have to think long and hard before you make that decision. But once you've made that decision, don't let other people change your mind. Because they're not living your life. It's you. You're the one in the pain. You're the one going through that every day. Everybody else is an outsider. They're not the ones in your shoes. So it's so easy for them to say, oh, you know what, but it might be better if you do this, or it might be better if you do that, or it's better if you stay. Are you sure you've thought about it? You know what's best for you. Yeah. Nobody else is the best decision maker of your own life. I think so. It's just keeping focused.
Yeah. And in that time, it can feel so hard doing those things, can't it?
Oh, it's awful. I do go back sometimes and think about it. Like when I go back on Facebook or I see something I wrote back, like when I first got divorced and what that journey's like, it still makes me cry. I still get tears because it was so hard to get out. It was so hard, and it's very surreal how my life has done a 360 turn. I never thought I would get out, let alone be helping others to get out or help. Like something never even crossed my mind. I was going to be lucky if I even got out. So that journey, when I look back at it sometimes, or something comes up, or somebody reminds me of something, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that even happened. Like literally, and I do get upset because I'm like, I shouldn't have gone through that, but I did.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so inspirational, your journey, because like you said, that even that first hurdle of, oh my god, I don't think I can get out of this, right?
I couldn't.
Well,
I say I couldn't, but I didn't see it. I was working for mum and dad on financially wasn't in the best of position. Like financially, I was okay because they were paying the salary, but the moment I walked out their door from that business, I was got to start from scratch.
Yeah, and
that was hard. It was making that decision to walk away from the family business. And I'm telling you, that was not. Even my dad was saying, "You've given the business to your ex. You're giving the business, to your ex." And like, it was his about my dad's family business. Yeah. It wasn't like it was his. It was my family. And yeah, that hurts. Like that, I had to do that. But and then my dad said, "Come back in the family business once we divorced." And my ex has the same business down the road. And I said, "I'm not going.
No,
I'm not going to competition with my ex. I've just freed myself from him. I don't want to go into your business, and now battling the market. I'm like, I'm done, Dad. I'm done. I can't do it. I just need emotional peace. I don't need no more drama."
And emotional peace is so key, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so important, because if you keep connecting yourself with that person, you can't have emotional peace. Well, I don't feel like I can. I've had to get to a point where I don't speak to him at all.
Yeah.
Because every interaction comes with lots of emotion and trauma. So I think you're right. Why would you put yourself in a situation that's going to disturb your emotional peace, really?
Yeah.
There's no reason to, is there?
Yeah. And my dad was like, let's take the business over, and it was just like, you can take it over again and you can run it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. Yeah. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted that peace of mind. There was enough battles anyway, and it's taken me a while to be in a place with my ex, like from 13, 14 years down the road now. From the day my journey started in 2010 to now, it's like 14 years. And so that emotional intensity I had with my ex, so that's died now. That it's not as bad. I mean, there's sometimes I'm sure he'll say stuff that winds me up, but I'm like, water off a duck's back. Don't have any expectation anymore. But in theory, I don't have that emotional intensity anymore, or that emotional, because one of my children are older, they communicate with him themselves anyway. There might be the odd thing about, you didn't get Shay's haircut, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get it done. That's probably the biggest thing now. But actually, funny you say that. I saw something about that the other day, but again, that's a control thing.
Yeah.
It's a control thing. Like, Shay's got really nice hair and I want to grow it. He's not so sure. His dad wants it short. So I remember when we were going through the separation, he'd go and take Shay for a haircut and get his haircut really short. I'd be mortified, but it was that control.
Yeah.
And I'd be like so upset. Like, you've just annihilated the boy's head. Like, what happened?
And
but yeah, it's silly things, isn't it?
I think it's the similarities between the things that they do. I think the more that we share these stories, the more that I think we can learn from each other, and we can, because it can feel so lonely, can't it, Sonia? That space, time can feel so lonely.
That's what I'm saying. I remember when the kids were going away and stuff, trying, like literally sobbing my eyes out. I remember being in my room sobbing. It was Christmas Day. I'll get upset about it now. But literally, I remember waking up, kids were nobody's out, they've gone away. I think actually my mum and dad were away as well. So I was here by myself. And it was awful. I cannot tell you how awful it was. It was the loneliest I've ever been.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I think, and that feeling, that lonely feeling, I don't think I can compare it. Like, I don't think I can compare it to any, I don't know how to compare it, or even how to articulate it. You just can't.
Yeah.
Can you?
You can't. And even now, like, I'm welling up because just
sorry.
the thought of it. No, it's okay. It's fine. It is what it is. It's real life, right? And I don't hide it. And that's why I talk about my journey so openly, because I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, and that loneliness and that no support and nobody understanding what it's like. And there is support out there now. But it's different when you know somebody that's been through it. Like, when you met somebody who's been through it, it makes such a difference. Because, like, actually, you've got out. Yeah, I think it's the loneliest I've ever been. It is the worst feeling ever. Like, not knowing if you're ever going to be free, not knowing how you're going to get out, and just, I mean, even now, just thinking about that time upsets me, because it was horrible. There's no other word for it. You can't describe it. It was, crap.
And similarly to you, it brings up emotions for me as well when I think about those times and the loneliness that I felt. And it's just that you are so alone, especially when you haven't got the support of your family, or do you know what I mean? It just makes it even harder, and it makes that journey even more difficult, doesn't it? I love you too.
Oh, bless.
But I do have my children. Do you know, like, you have to. And I think I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier, and we talked about pain. But the emotional pain that you feel is undescribable, isn't it? Like,
there are no words. It's just when you're living it, you're in it. There are no words to describe that pain that you go through. I mean, the kids, when they were away and mum and dad were away, even though mum and dad weren't my support, they were still here. But that, I will never forget that Christmas. It was awful for me. And it's just the everyday. You just want that support. You just want someone to talk to. Just want someone to understand. And there is nobody that understands. But there is now, because I've got a network of friends who are single parents. And I think there is now.
And in addition to that, I think also people like yourself and me and others starting to talk more openly about this should also, allow for a gateway for people not to feel this lonely. Do you know what I mean? To know that there are people that you can reach out to.
Yeah, 100%. It's really important. Really, really important that people know that there's someone they can go to. I think it's really important.
So, Sonia, we don't want to leave you on a sad note. So taking you back to your lovely, wonderful divorce party.
Yeah.
What's the title of the next party?
So they're all called It's a Sonia Thing. So I had It's a Sonia Thing part 1 was a divorce. It's a Sonia thing. Part 2 was my launch party for the It's a Sonia thing.
Mhm.
It'll just be It's a Sonia thing, but I don't know what premise I'm going to do it on. I don't know what the theme is going to be. I
Unicorns.
don't know yet.
Unicorns.
No, I don't mean the theme, as in the reason. The reason that
Okay.
was divorce. The other one was a launch party. My 50th, maybe. Don't know.
Yeah.
Just a summer party, maybe, just to celebrate life, maybe next year. Who knows? I do want to do another one. I am thinking next summer, maybe.
Yeah. I almost feel like you are a party in yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, me and the kids talked about it this summer. This summer was definitely an option. Maybe next summer, maybe
Yeah.
next summer. Or just be a Sonia thing part 3. Summer party, celebrate you.
We could
Celebrate.
do It's a Sonia thing, the sequel.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the reason. I just not that I need a reason to have a party. I'll just have a party.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
need
what
a reason.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that you are a party in yourself. You know, the life
Thank
and the
you.
soul and everything else that you bring, you know, in
Oh,
yourself, you're, you know, this wonderful individual who is you know, it is so inspiring, I think, to a
thank
lot of
you.
people, you know, really kind of your story, your journey, everything that you've been through, like you said, 360 turn that you've done, you know, it's just to say to people out there, you know what, you can do it too.
Yeah. And I don't, when people say that to me, like it's really inspiring. I'm like, I've just done what I needed to do. I don't see it in any other way. So when people say that to me, I'm like, it takes me back a bit. And I'm like, really? And like friends will say it to me who are now single parents. Like, you don't realize how inspiring your journey or how inspiring you are as a person. And I genuinely don't see it. For me, I just did what I had to do.
Mm.
People say to me, how did you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. I think I just survival mode kicked in, right? So I survived.
Yeah.
I had no choice.
And here you are today, you know, as you are, you know, so I think on that note, Mahi and I would like to say, don't we?
Thank you, Sonia, for being on our podcast and sharing your story and being so lovely.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Sonia. Really, no,
That's
it
all right.
is.
No,
I think the more
very
we all
welcome.
talk about our stories,
Yeah,
the more other
100%.
people will hear, and
Yeah.
you know, I think that's how we could, you know, collectively inspire others to make changes in their lives as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for your
No,
time and joining us,
thank you.
you know, for our inspirational people season this time. But yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you. I loved it. It was brilliant.